My wife's search history showed, "How to poison husband without a trace." She laughed it off as a joke. When she handed me tea, I swapped our cups, then I faked my own collapse. She was left frantically telling to the 911 dispatcher as I died. I, 34 male, found my wife's, Teresa, 32, search history last Tuesday. And yes, it's exactly what the title says. We've been married for 6 years, no kids, a nice, quiet life in a rented house with a garden I'm probably a little too proud of. From the outside, we were the couple people envied. We hosted dinner parties. We remembered each other's coffee orders. We held hands, small, everyday things that build a life. The discovery was an accident. Teresa's laptop was open on the kitchen island, and she'd asked me to look up a recipe for the dinner she was planning. I opened a new tab, but the cursor just happened to be in the search bar, and the recent history popped up. It's a feature, right? Not snooping. There it was, nestled between best heirloom tomato varieties and yoga retreats Bali. How to poison husband without a trace. Tasteless poisons that mimic heart attack. Amanita phalloides. Dosage, lethal life insurance payout, accidental death versus homicide. My heart didn't pound. It just stopped. Everything went quiet. The hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of a lawnmower, it all faded into a dull roar in my ears. I stared at those words, my mind struggling to connect them to the woman I loved, the woman currently humming in the next room. I closed the laptop. My hands were perfectly steady. I went back to my own computer in the study and spent the next hour in a cold, methodical daze. I took a high-resolution photo of her search history with my phone, making sure the timestamp was visible on her laptop screen. I emailed it to my personal email, then to a new, secret email address I created right then and there. I forwarded the email to my sister, a lawyer, with the subject line, "Read this only if you don't hear from me by tomorrow night. I love you." Then I deleted my sent history and went back to the kitchen just as Teresa came in, smiling. "Find a good recipe for dauphinoise potatoes?" she asked, her eyes crinkling in that way I used to find so endearing. I looked at her, really looked at her, tried to see behind the mask. "Still looking," I said, my voice even. Couldn't decide. The confrontation, if you can call it that, happened that night. I was too focused to be emotional. I just needed to know. I sat her down on the sofa, the same one where we'd binge-watched countless shows, and I turned my phone screen towards her. I didn't say a word. Her reaction was telling. First, a flicker of pure, undiluted panic. Her eyes widened, her breath hitched. It was there for only a second, but I saw it. I will never unsee it. Then the mask slammed back into place. She laughed, a high, tinkling, utterly false laugh. "Oh my God, Noah, you're not seriously taking that seriously?" I waited. "It's for a book," she exclaimed, gesturing wildly with her hands. "Teresa is not a writer. She's an account manager for a marketing firm. A friend of mine, Sarah, you know Sarah, she's writing a mystery novel. We were brainstorming. It's a joke. It's just morbid curiosity." "You've never mentioned Sarah writing a book," I said, my tone flat. "I know. It's a new thing. She's been very shy about it. Noah, come on, this is insane. You can't possibly think." She trailed off, feigning hurt, her lower lip trembling just so. It was a masterful performance. 6 years of marriage, and I was only now getting a front row seat to her true talent. I felt a profound, chilling sadness. Not grief, not rage, just the quiet, hollow finality of an ending. The man who loved this woman was already dead. He died the moment he read that search history. I was just the ghost he left behind, and it was my job to handle the arrangements. I pretended to accept it. I even forced a laugh. "God, you're right. It's just jarring to see, you know?" She crawled into my lap, wrapping her arms around my neck. "Of course. I'm so sorry, baby. I should have told you. It was a stupid, dark joke." Her hug felt like a cage. The next 2 days were a masterclass in domestic theater. She was overly affectionate. She made all my favorite meals. She suggested we book a vacation, just the two of us. I played my part. I was the slightly sheepish, loving husband, easily placated and back to normal. Then came Friday. The day after I'd told my sister to open the email, Teresa announced she was making a special afternoon tea. Her own blend. She was so proud of it, bustling around the kitchen. I watched her from the doorway. She laid out a little tray, a floral teapot, and 2 matching cups. My favorite ones, the heavy ceramic ones I'd bought on our anniversary trip. As she prepared everything, she turned her back for just a moment, fussing with the sugar bowl and spoons. Her movements were just a little too precise, a little too focused. It was the only tell. That was the moment she did something to my cup. She brought the tray into the living room where I was pretending to read. She poured the tea, a fragrant, steaming amber liquid. She handed me my cup. "Here you go, my love," she said, her smile brighter than the sun. Our eyes met, and in that moment I knew. There was an anticipation in her gaze, a tautness around her mouth. This was it. My heart was finally pounding, a frantic drum against my ribs. But my hands, my blessed hands, were steady. As I reached for the cup, I let my sleeve catch on a stack of magazines on the coffee table. They tumbled to the floor. "Oh shoot," I said, my voice perfectly natural. It was the oldest trick in the book, the distraction. As we both bent down to pick up the magazines, our heads close together, our hands brushing, I did it. A quick, seamless swap, my cup for hers. It took less than a second. When we straightened up, I had the safe cup. She had the poisoned one. Neither of us had taken a sip. She was none the wiser. I raised my cup, the safe one, in a small toast. "To us," I said, my voice thick with a meaning only I understood. She beamed, raising hers. "To us." I watched her, waiting for her to drink. She brought the cup almost to her lips, but then paused, setting it down on the table. "Oh, I completely forgot the lemon biscuits," she said, with a little laugh. "They're in the kitchen. I'll be right back. Don't wait for me." She was waiting. She wouldn't drink, wouldn't relax until her plan had worked. She needed to see me take a sip first. That was all the confirmation I needed. My last flicker of doubt was extinguished. I took a small, deliberate sip of my own, safe tea. I held her gaze as she turned to leave the room. I let a small, fond smile play on my lips. Then, as she disappeared into the kitchen, I began. I set my cup down with a clatter. My hand started to tremble. I focused on my breathing, making it ragged. I'm a freediver as a hobby. I know how to control my body's autonomic responses in ways most people don't. I let my heart rate skyrocket, then forced it into an erratic, thready rhythm. "Noah?" Teresa's voice called out from the kitchen. I didn't answer. I made a harsh, guttural, choking sound. I pitched forward, knocking the cup, her cup, the poisoned one, so it sloshed but didn't spill entirely. Then I slid from the sofa to the floor, convulsing for a moment before going limp. I let my eyes roll back, keeping them just slightly open. My breathing became a series of shallow, agonized gasps. Teresa rushed back into the room. "Noah! Oh my God, Noah!" She stood over me, her face a canvas of rapt fascination. Not concern. Not yet. She was watching, checking to see if it was working. A full 10 seconds passed, an eternity. She was waiting to make sure. Then, when she was satisfied, the performance began. A switch flipped. The frantic, terrified wife appeared. "Oh my God! Noah!" she screamed, a sound so convincing it chilled me to my very soul. She fumbled for her phone. I heard her shaky fingers dialing. I heard the tinny sound of the call connecting. 911, what's your emergency?" "My husband, I think he's having a heart attack. He just collapsed. He's barely breathing." Her voice was a symphony of panic and despair. She was crying. Real tears. As she spoke to the dispatcher, feeding them our address, her words a torrent of calculated hysteria. I lay there, my body twitching periodically. I could hear the faint wail of sirens in the distance, growing closer. She was going to get away with it. But she didn't know about the photo, or the email, or the fact that, in her panic to play the part of the distraught wife, she had forgotten all about the poisoned cup of tea, sitting right there on the coffee table. Update 1. First of all, thank you. The comments and DMs have been a strange sort of comfort. It's grounding to know I'm not insane. To answer the most pressing question, I am not dead, nor did I ever technically die. But for about 15 minutes, 3 days ago, my wife and a team of very concerned paramedics thought I was on my way out. Let's pick up where I left off. The sirens were getting closer. Teresa was giving her Oscar-worthy performance to the 911 dispatcher. "His lips are turning blue," she shrieked. They were not. "His pulse is so weak, I can barely find it." A lie, but a good one. The first responders were incredible. They were in the house in what felt like seconds. I maintained my act. Body limp but with occasional tremors, eyes half open and unfocused, breathing shallow and erratic. I felt them cut away my shirt. I felt the cold circles of EKG pads being slapped onto my chest. "He's in VTAC, pulse is thready and fast," one of the EMTs yelled. Pushing amiodarone, they saw a life-threatening cardiac arrhythmia, exactly what her search history suggested she was aiming for. They were treating a genuine, critical emergency. My freediving training was paying off in a way I never imagined. Still no change. "He's crashing. Charge the paddles to 200. That was my cue. Just as they shouted clear and the high-pitched whine of the defibrillator filled the room, I took a sudden deep, shuddering breath. My eyes focused. I blinked, looked at the EMT holding the paddles and said, my voice hoarse, "I think I'm okay now." The room erupted. One of the EMTs nearly dropped the paddles. The other one just stared, his mouth agape. Teresa, who had been hovering in the doorway, the picture of a grieving widow, let out a strangled gasp. It wasn't a gasp of relief, it was a gasp of pure, unadulterated horror. The look on her face was not, "Oh, thank God my husband is alive," it was, "My plan has failed." The two police officers who had arrived with the paramedics immediately focused their attention on me. I was calm. I told them I felt disoriented but fine now, that it must have been some kind of bizarre vasovagal episode. Teresa tried to take over. "He's delirious," she insisted, rushing to my side. "He was convulsing. He needs to go to the hospital." I looked at one of the officers. "She's right, I should get checked out. But officer, before we go, can you please secure the brown teacup on the coffee table? The one that's still full. I believe my wife may have put something in it." The officer's eyes flickered to the cup, then to Teresa's face, which had gone chalk white. Her frantic act evaporated, replaced by cold terror. That was all the confirmation he needed. He nodded slowly and gestured to his partner. They insisted I go to the hospital. As they loaded me onto the gurney, I saw Teresa's face. What if they ran a talk screen on the T? What if they found something? This is where my own plan kicked in. At the hospital, I was, of course, completely fine. My EKG was perfect. When the ER doctor came in, I told him the whole story, but framed it as a concern. "Doctor," I said, "I know this sounds crazy, but I have reason to believe my wife attempted to poison me. It led to a very strange domestic situation where I felt I had to feign a severe medical episode to expose it." He listened, his expression unreadable. I then showed him the photo of her search history on my phone. He scrolled through the images. Tasteless poisons that mimic heart attack. His face hardened. He immediately made a call. A few minutes later, a hospital social worker and a police detective were in my room. I laid it all out for them. The search history, the book idea excuse, the sudden special cup of tea, the swap, her refusal to drink, my faked collapse, her call to 911, the teacup left at the scene. I also told them about the email to my sister. The detective, a woman named Detective Marie, was brilliant. She didn't treat me like a hysterical husband. She listened and took notes. She told me the patrol officers had already bagged the cup as potential evidence. She asked if she could get a warrant for her electronics. "She'll never consent," I said. "Given your testimony, the photographic evidence of the searches, and her attempt to prevent officers from securing the evidence at the scene, a judge will agree that the risk of her wiping her devices constitutes grounds for a warrant." Detective Marie stated calmly, "These things take time, but we'll get it." I was discharged with a clean bill of health. Detective Marie advised me not to go home. I'd already planned for that. I went straight to my sister's house. The next day, my sister, my wonderful shark of a sister, filed an emergency protective order on my behalf and initiated divorce proceedings. The petition cited the evidence of the search history and the events of that Friday. Teresa was served the papers yesterday. I'm told she did not take it well. I haven't listened to a single one of the unhinged voicemails she's been leaving, but my sister says each one is a gift for our case. I had to go back to the house today with a police escort to get some of my things. The locks were already changed. A note was taped to the door. In Teresa's looping, pretty handwriting, it said, "How could you do this to us, Noah? I love you." Looking at that note, all I could think was that her focus on me, on the drama, on playing the victim, was so complete that she never once thought to get rid of that teacup. The chaos of my collapse had worked perfectly. She was so consumed with managing her performance for the EMTs that the cup became invisible to her. Update 2. It's been 2 weeks since my last update. 2 weeks of lawyers, paperwork, and the slow, grinding machinery of the justice and bureaucratic systems. And let me tell you, it's in the grinding that you really see a person's true character. Teresa's character, it turns out, is a fascinating blend of victimhood and aggression. After the initial shock, she went on the offensive, not legally. Her lawyer seems to be advising her to keep quiet. Her battlefield is social. She's trying to win the court of public opinion. It started with our mutual friends. A call came from Jesse, a guy I'd known since college. "Noah? Hey man, listen, I just got off the phone with Teresa. She's a complete wreck." "I'm sure she is," I said evenly. "Yeah, well, she's saying this is all some huge misunderstanding, that you've been under a lot of stress at work and, well, that you kind of freaked out over a joke. She told me about her friend's book idea." His voice was full of that cautious sympathy you use when you think your friend has lost his mind. "Did she, Jesse?" I asked, my voice remaining calm. "Let me ask you a question. Do you think I'm a paranoid person?" "No, of course not, man. But then trust that I'm not paranoid now. There are things I can't talk about legally. But the police have her laptop for a reason. Just think about that." He was quiet for a moment. "Oh, okay. Shit, man, okay." Then came the family front. Her father, a big, blustering man who'd always treated me like a son, called me, practically yelling before I'd even said hello. "Noah, what in the hell do you think you're doing? I just heard from my daughter. She's in tears, hysterical. You file for divorce? A protective order? You've lost your mind." "Hello, Albert," I said quietly. "I'm sorry you're in this position." "Sorry? You're sorry? You're destroying her. She loves you and you're dragging her name through the mud over some stupid joke. She told us all about it. It was for a book." "Albert, did she love me when she was researching tasteless poisons that are hard to trace?" "It was a joke," he thundered. "Don't you people have a sense of humor anymore? You're supposed to be family. You talk things through, you don't call the cops and run away like a coward." "My sense of humor ends where lethal doses of Amanita phalloides begins," I replied, my voice cold as ice. "And I didn't run, Albert. I walked away from a woman who was going to kill me. The police are involved because she committed a crime. This isn't a family squabble. Goodbye." I hung up the phone before he could respond. The most calculated move on my part was dealing with our landlord. We were on a joint lease for our house, the one with the garden I loved. The security deposit was a hefty $2,850. I emailed the landlord, a no-nonsense property manager named Janice. I explained that I had moved out due to a pending divorce and a police investigation, and that I was formally requesting to be removed from the lease. I attached a copy of the temporary protective order. Janice called me within the hour. "Mr. Hayes, I don't care about the drama. I care about the lease. It's a joint agreement. You're both on the hook for the rent until the term is up in 4 months." "I understand that," I said, "but my estranged wife has changed the locks illegally and I cannot access the property. I also have a court order stating she is to stay away from me. I will not be paying for a property I am legally barred from and cannot safely access. However, I am happy to pay my half of the rent directly to you for the remainder of the term, provided Teresa pays her half, but I will not be sending her money." This put Janice in a bind that favored me. She now had to chase Teresa for her half of the rent. I also mentioned, very casually, "By the way, when you do the final walkthrough, be sure to check the new rug in the living room. There might be some damage. Her friend Joe has a habit of leaving his muddy Adidas sneakers on it." I've never met anyone named Joe, but I knew planting that seed of infidelity and disrespect for the property would stick in a landlord's mind. My sister, my wonderful shark of a sister, got a preliminary report back from the forensic analysis of Teresa's laptop. The friend who is writing a book, Sarah? Teresa had sent her an email 2 days before the incident. It said, "Hey, got a weird question for your novel. What's the most creative way a character could get rid of a scheming husband?" Sarah's reply? "OMG, fun. Aconite is a classic. Or maybe something with pufferfish? Let's brainstorm Tuesday." Teresa was trying to build an alibi. The sheer premeditation of it all is what gets me. The methodical, patient planning. I guess we have that in common. Final update. This is the last time I'll be posting about this. The case is closed, the divorce is final, And I'm in a different city, sleeping soundly for the first time in what feels like a lifetime. The resolution wasn't a big, dramatic courtroom showdown like in the movies. It was death by 1,000 bureaucratic cuts. And it was beautiful. Let's start with the poison. The lab finally identified the substance in the teacup, the one meant for me, the one she refused to drink. It was a synthesized version of a cardiac glycoside, a compound derived from a plant, known for causing heart irregularities, and, in the right dose, a massive, fatal heart attack that could easily be mistaken for natural causes. The dose in the cup was significant. It would have killed me. The discovery of a synthesized, hard-to-trace compound, cross-referenced with her search history for poisons that mimic heart attack, was the nail in the coffin. The district attorney formally charged Teresa with attempted murder. Her defense, the one where I supposedly framed her, crumbled under the weight of the evidence. Her "it was a joke for a book" story was shredded by the timeline. The search history. The email to her friend Sarah, which the prosecution presented as an attempt to create a premeditated alibi. The 911 call was played in court, and what she intended as the frantic cries of a grieving wife now sounded, in context, like a chilling performance. The most damning part was my testimony about the cup swap, and her subsequent refusal to drink from it. It demonstrated clear, conscious avoidance. Teresa's lawyer urged her to take a plea deal. She refused, clinging to the belief that she could manipulate a jury the way she had manipulated me for years. It was a fatal miscalculation. She was found guilty. Due to the extreme premeditation, the judge was not lenient. She was sentenced to 15 years in prison. She's eligible for parole in 10. I saw her face as the sentence was read. It wasn't remorseful. It was incandescent with rage. The rage of a narcissist who had been, for the first time in her life, truly outmaneuvered. The fallout in her personal life was just as complete. Our landlord Janice evicted her 2 months into my absence. Teresa couldn't make rent on her own. Janice told my sister she had to hire a cleaning crew to deal with the state of the house. Apparently, once I was gone, the facade of the perfect domestic goddess fell away completely. Janice kept the entire $2,850 security deposit and sent Teresa a bill for another $1,200 in damages. Her friends, even Jessie, vanished. Once the evidence became public record, no one wanted to be associated with her. Her parents, after spending a small fortune on her defense, are now social pariahs in their own community. I hear they've put their house on the market. As for me, the divorce was finalized quickly. I didn't ask for anything except my personal belongings and my freedom. I let her have the furniture, the art we bought together, the life we built. It was all tainted anyway. I packed my car with my clothes, my books, and the photos of my family, and I drove away without looking back. I have a small apartment now in a city a few hours away. It overlooks a park, not a garden, but it's mine. It's quiet. It's safe. I do have moments of vulnerability. Sometimes late at night, I think about the 6 years I spent with a woman who was capable of that. Was any of it real? Did she ever love me? And I'm learning to be okay with it. The man she married is gone. He had his heart attack on that sofa. I'm what came after. I'm more careful now, more observant, sharper. The real justice wasn't her prison sentence. It was the slow, inevitable collapse of the world she built on lies. I didn't have to orchestrate some grand revenge. I just had to get out of the way, present the facts, and let the system do its job. Her own entitlement did the rest. She was so confident in her ability to manipulate everyone that she never considered the possibility that someone might just calmly and quietly call her bluff.